Women. So this movie is actually one that I've been meaning to watch for a while now. After watching Lady Bird and having my heart ripped out and pieced back together again, I was more than excited to check out Greta Gerwig's other stuff. This is Greta Gerwig's second solo directorial film following the success of Lady Bird in 2017. She has co-written and starred in several others, but this is the second film written and directed solely by her. And I gotta say, this one has definitely earned her a spot, rightfully, in the conversation of, great directors. So this movie was based on the novel Little Women, which was originally written by Louisa May Alcott in 1868, and then adapted for various movies and TV shows. It's a classic coming-of-age story about sisterhood, and it has really stood the test of time with each adaptation for each generation. And yeah, obviously I'm not a woman, so I don't really know about the intricacies of womanhood, but I think one of the biggest strengths of this story, and more specifically Greta Gerwig's adaptation of it, is its ability to make you empathize with it. In each character, you can find little bits and pieces of yourself and learn to identify with them. So the story alone is already just a solid piece of writing. But again, it's the constant retelling of this story that makes it so good and relevant to the time that it's being told in and all that good stuff. In this adaptation, you have the four sisters, Meg, Amy, Beth, and Jo March, living in post-Civil War America. Meg is married to a school teacher, Amy studies painting in Paris, Jo makes a living as a writer in New York. Then the fourth sister, Beth, gets sick, and her sickness brings them all back together. And the rest of it is pretty much them figuring out life and stuff, with little flashbacks woven in. Also, the cast is phenomenal. You got Emma Watson playing Meg, Florence Pugh playing Amy, Saoirse Ronan as Jo, and Eliza Scanlon as Beth. You also got Laura Dern and Meryl Streep as Marmee and Aunt March, Timothy Chalamet as post-Civil War Timothy Chalamet. So the cast is pretty stacked. And with all these crazy good actors, you get a lot of emotion conveyed with just a ton of professionalism. One thing I remember thinking while watching was if it were anybody else saying these lines, they would risk sounding over-dramatic or edgy. And that's not a jab at Greta Gerwig's dialogue, because the dialogue in here was actually really good and memorable. It's more like, this is a period piece, so it reflects the mannerisms and such of 19th century America. And if you go around trying to sound like a 19th century Yankee without any prior knowledge of the dialect, odds are you're just gonna sound weird to our 21st century ears. Oh, dearest brother, fetch me the carriage before sundown. We shan't be late for the Gettysburg Address and scarlet fever. Damn, what the fuck else did they do in 1868? And arranged marriages, I think. And on top of that, everything else, whether, it was the set design or the color grading, I felt really captured the essence of the late 1800s. One thing a period piece should do is take a viewer out of their current physical space and then transport them into a romanticized version of another time period. And this movie took you into that space and did it just so effortlessly. I gotta say, my biggest takeaway from this movie was Saoirse Ronan's performance. From start to finish, it was, incredible. There were so many scenes that gave me goosebumps or chills because it was fairly obvious that there were some strong emotions backing the lines. Not just basic changes of inflection, actual human feelings being poured into the character. And her character was such a powerhouse because it starts with Jo March trying to get her work out there and published, and she just faces rejection after rejection. And it was always her story couldn't end that way because the main character was a woman and she didn't have the main character get married by the end. And as we know, there were different ideas of what a lot of people thought a woman should be back then, and her writing would push those boundaries in a way that a lot of her contemporaries just weren't ready for. But then finally in the end, it's just damn. That really was a good ending, huh? Now that I'm thinking about it again, let's just say the ending is definitely earned. My one and only real issue with the movie was the non-linear storytelling, which is usually all good and well. Actually, most times I can really enjoy some non-linear storytelling. But if I'm being honest, I was actually kind of confused for the first 20 minutes. I was like, what? What's going on? Which year are we in? But most of that can be attributed to the fact that I had no idea what Little Women was about before watching. And once you get into it, it's pretty easy to follow, so it picks up by the end. And, you know, overall, I really just appreciate what this movie did and is still currently doing for Hollywood. You know, in 2019, only like 10% of directors were women. That's a pretty low number. But yeah, all around, really good movie. I think I'm gonna give Little Women a 9 out of 10. Let me know what you think. Agree, disagree, whatever. If you liked the video, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. And if you disliked the video, go ahead and leave a like anyway and subscribe. Later.